Hello again. So video 3 in this short series where I'm explaining like a small tutorial on how to put together the basics of a JavaScript game. It might not be a game, it could be a simulation or an artwork, an animation or something like that. So far what we've got is a lot of blip objects which I've modeled in terms of eggs because I like the shape and it looked quite nice. But what I'm aiming to do, the key idea is what's going to happen now in this video, is every time one of these eggs collides, overlaps, which we accomplished in the last video, we introduced some collision detection. So if that's working, every time one of these eggs collides with another egg, we'll draw a line between those two eggs, and hopefully we'll get some patterns of lines happening. Now, let's let these eggs rest for a moment. We'll go back to the code. I might just bring up the image, our diagram, our scientific diagram of what's going on here. So this is where we're taking care of the collision detection, which we don't need to worry about anymore, except for the fact that I need a cup of tea here. Wait a minute. Thank you for indulging me there. Right. We noticed that when we were testing the collision detection, lots and lots and lots of collisions were happening because those eggs were overlapping like this very slowly, and for the whole time, every frame rate, there was a new collision happening. Now, the question is, do we need to solve that? Because one problem might be, if we have 1,000 collisions while the eggs overlap for 1,000 frames, for example, we'll get 1,000 lines drawn, perhaps. So we just got to be aware of that. Another thing we could do is perhaps when the eggs collide, we then reverse their speeds. That might be simple to do. So let's try and do that. And that would give the eggs, for the first time, these objects, solidity. So we know when they overlap, but they're not really colliding in terms of physical objects. So here's where we're checking if there's a hit. What we could do is reverse the speeds in here, but I'm not inclined to do so because as far as this function is concerned, it's getting any two objects in. It doesn't know what's going on. We might do it in there. What might be better is in the loop itself, in the game loop itself, where we're checking the hit, and if there's a hit, we're placing that value of true into Bob, and if it's false, Bob will be false. So what we could do here is say if Bob is true, then we could have both eggs going in the opposite direction. Let's just try one egg, see what that looks like. Then we'll say the static egg. Actually, let's say that it kind of makes more sense. We'll say the second egg that we pass as an object into check hit, because we imagine that's the one that's kind of moving. So we'll reverse its movement. Right. So what we need to say is eggs j, to reference that egg object stored in the array. Eggs j, did I call it speed? Yes, so speed, remember, is not an ordinary variable. If we just have a look down at our object, our blip object, so all the eggs are blip objects. They have a position, they have a speed, they have a radius. Below here are its functions. I might comment those now as object functions. So we've only got 3 attributes, 3 variables for each blip object. So we're only concerned with speed, but if we remember, we're storing its speed in a vector, and that just means we're storing an x component of the speed and a y component. If it's a negative number, then if we're talking about the y component, it will be moving up. If it's a negative number for the x component, it will be going left and vice versa. So what were we talking about here? So what we want to do is say speed.x equals eggs j speed.x and reversed, so minus. We just want to minus it. So a similar thing that we did with the boundaries for the screen, we simply reversed the speed. So, or directionality of the speed of the egg. So we also want to do this for the y component, which is going to look exactly the same. So let's simply change the x's to y's. There we go. Now, what you'll notice is this this code is pretty gross right now, right here in our draw loop. So really, I should be making functions called something like egg physics, and then maybe another function here to say reverse speed. And if we think about it, we could have used that function then for the boundaries as well. Anyway, we're gonna, in order to keep this video as short as possible, I'll keep things as they are. In terms of coding practice, perhaps not the best way to do things if we're trying to keep things tidy and clear. So we reversed the egg. Let's play, and now we should have some eggs bouncing off each other. They're having a lot of fun in there. That is great. That is great. We can have a little better look at the collision detection now, which doesn't look great. Let's put fewer eggs in, because before, where's my collision detection? Oh yes, I couldn't do that. I forgot to think about this off camera. It's a little easier to think off camera, but I don't know whether I'm dealing with the radius incorrectly. Anyway, I'm not going to think about it. I'm not even going to try to fall down that rabbit hole. So, what am I doing? Oh, making fewer eggs. Breaks my heart, but let's put only 7 eggs in there. 20, that's 7 eggs in there. And see if we can see some less extreme collision detection. Oh dear. They sometimes get stuck. But for the most part, the collision detection is okay. I can't quite diagnose what I'm doing wrong at the moment. Or it might, the issue when we saw the 2 eggs vibrating earlier, it might have been a conflict between the boundary reversal of direction and an egg reversal of direction, which doesn't seem to happen too often. So that's quite pleasing. That's quite in and of itself, it's quite nice to watch. So when this also happens, when an egg collides, we now want to do our crucial thing of drawing a line between that egg and another egg, the egg that it collided with. So now I really think, before things get tangled up, let's make a function, and we'll call this egg, or they're not really eggs, the object itself is a blip. So let's call it blip collided. And we want to pass in 2 objects, the collidees, the 2 objects that have got hit. So we'll say collided object 1 and collided object 2. There we go, blip collided. So in this for loop, each egg is being checked against every other egg to see whether they overlap, whether they collide. I forgot a semicolon there, didn't seem to hurt things. That's scary. So in here is where I'm saying, if that's the crucial thing. If Bob is true, if there was a hit, then we want to essentially do this inside of blip collided. Okay, so this is where we're going to call blip collided, and we want to pass in C1 and C2. So C1 will be eggs I, and C2 is going to be eggs J. Okay. Right, because they were the two eggs that we were referring to in this collision. Now, this blip collided function doesn't know what eggs J means. This J is now outside of the scope of the for loop. So, we simply want to replace all the J's with, it's the second object that I'm passing in, so it's a C2. So, C2 speed. I wonder if there's a replace function where I can, no, I don't know. It's maybe quicker for me to type it. So minus C2 minus C2. I'll try and talk about what am I doing next. So we want to establish some kind of link. We want to draw a line between the two eggs. So I think this calls for another function in the object class itself. So maybe in render, actually, maybe we can just append, add to the render function. So the render function is where we're drawing the egg. So maybe here would be a good place to draw a line between the other eggs that it's collided with. So we need a variable that kind of keeps a track of all the other people, all the other eggs that it's collided with. So if that record is going to grow and grow and grow, that sounds much like an array. So we need an array. So first of all, we want to say this, what can we call this array? A record of eggs that it's collided with. We'll call it my hits. My hits, my latest, my greatest hits. My hits equals square brackets. So again, we've just told JavaScript that my hits is an array, just like our global array up here that stores all of our egg objects, our blip objects is an array. Right. So where am I going? Right. So we've got my hits. So so we need to push something into that when we're calling blip collided. So for both of the objects, they want to grow a new line, although no, they don't. We only need one line between them. So since we're changing the speed of the first object, let's give the line to C1, our kind of static egg, a static object. So C1's my hits. Remember how we push or put or add a value into an array or an object into an array. We push, we use the push function, and inside these parentheses we want to put in an object. What do we want to put in? Not the eggs x and y location, although we are drawing a line to somewhere. We want, because if we took in an x and a y, that x and a y wouldn't change from this point onward. So we would get a line drawn to that static point, but we want it to be drawn kind of dynamically to another egg or other eggs. Although it would kind of look cool to have a line to where it first hit, like a monument to where that coming together of eggs first happened. That might be another way to expand this. Right, but first of all, we just need to dynamically track where the other egg is, so let's just put in another object. So we're going to store that object. So C1 is going to keep a record of C2. So in the render function, we're going to refer to however many other egg objects we need to in terms of their locations to draw a line. Right. Okay. If we've already hit that egg, we don't want to draw another line to it. We won't be able to see it, it will just redraw itself, and that would be a redundant object on the array. So we could check, what we need to do, should check to see if this connection is already established. If so, don't push to the array. Thanks. So that's a message to my future self, or to you, if you want to copy this code. I'll put another link in the description to the code, so you can fiddle around with that on CodePen, or paste it into whatever editor you're using with the P5 library. And maybe you could do that if I don't get around to doing it, and it sounds interesting. Right, so what have we done? We're recording the collisions that are happening. Let's just see if things, I'm just running it. I can have some more tea. We're getting our boundary bug again, our vibration boundary bug. I don't think that's to do with anything that I've recently done, so I hopefully haven't introduced any new bugs, any new problems. I'm pretty happy with the collisions. I think I'm getting the 1.3 gate maybe correct. Anyway, right. I mean, I'm not really colliding ellipses, ovals. I'm not doing any clever maths. I'm really just colliding boxes. So let's just have a look at the console. Command Alt J. So there's no bugs being reported otherwise. So everything seems to be okay so far. We just need to draw it. Just need to draw that line. My essential idea. I can't wait to see these things actually really happening dynamically. I have an intuition it will look cool. Although pretty much anything that moves on a screen looks cool to me. Right. Where are we? In render. So let's just, now that we're making render a bit more complicated, let's just comment to help our future selves. So draw the object, draw the blip object, and down here we're going to draw any connections that we're lucky enough to have. Smiley face. Because this is the point of the thing, this is the core of the project. So notice I've said any connections, so we don't know whether we have any connections, so we've got to loop through. We've got to loop through. I don't like doing this. I'm going to have to loop through the array of eggs that I've got. No, I don't. Do I? No. I have to loop through the array. It's okay. I panicked. We're okay. I just have to loop through my hits, which belongs to the object. Everything's good and proper. Right. Don't panic. It's okay. Right. So we need a for loop. Exactly the same as our other for loops. And we're going to loop around while I is less than my hits. Oh, this dot, my hits. So we're now talking about not an ordinary array or variable, but an object array or variable, where you use the this dot prefix, because we're writing inside the kind of a prototypey area. So this my hits length. So as that grows or shrinks, we can dynamically check through without trying to refer to something that doesn't exist. Right, and then I will be incremented via 1 steps as usual. So what are we doing? We're just drawing a line between this egg and my hits location, because the my hits array stores another egg that we've collided with. Okay, and I wonder if this is the place where we could check. No, it isn't the right place to check whether we're drawing to multiple the same egg multiple times, a line to the same egg multiple times, we were going to handle that up there. So let's not worry about it now. Let's just draw the line. It seems like I'm delaying this bit, I'm afraid, of having my dream realized. Right, so we want to draw a line. So to draw a line, I don't think I've done one before, using the P5 library. So you simply state an X and Y location and another X and Y location, and the P5 library will tell or work with, in a democratic way, the JavaScript monkeys to virtual monkeys to draw a line. So where are we going from? We're going to go from this dot position X to this dot position Y, so this egg, this blip, to my hits. So this dot, my hits, and now what index? I, and we want its position X and its position Y. And I'll just explain this. I went a little quickly there. Right, so we understand the position X and Y position of this egg. So remember, we're in a for loop, so we're looping around all of my hits. And all of my hits are other egg objects that we've collided with. So this my hits I refers to the current my hits egg object that we're talking about in the loop. And remember, it's just an egg, just like us right now. So it's got a position with which is a vector, so we can refer to the x and we can refer to the y coordinate. Right. I think we've now drawn the line. We've now drawn the line because render is already called. Command save. I'll get my cup of tea, and let's see what happens. Here we go. You've got lines at the top. Yes. Oh, now I like this. This is working nicely. Contrary to my expectations, it kind of looks gross. We've got eggs kind of mating at the top, and we've got like a spider web effect. There we go. I've combined eggs and spiders. And it's not even PG rated. My goodness. Look at this. I quite like it now. You could definitely change the colours and things would be a lot nicer. I think we've got to let's have thick white lines to begin with, and then let's increase our egg count. Okay, and then I think I might end the video, and then I might do some actual thinking and plan and see if it's worth doing a fourth one. But it might be nice to have a sweet 3, and hopefully this was the shortest of the videos. I'm trying to keep them much shorter. Right, what was I going to do? Oh yes, so all we're going to do, just in case we have some lines to draw, to tell the line to draw in a certain colour, use stroke. That's exactly the same as up here. You tell the outline of a shape, like an ellipse or a rectangle, which you call with rect. You refer to the line as stroke. So we want the colour of the line. What did I say? Blue? No, I said white. So we'll go for white, and full alpha is on. Oh yes, and the thickness. So the thickness of the line you can change with stroke weight. Stroke weight, and 4 is pretty heavy. So command save. Here we go. Hopefully this won't look disgusting. as disgusting. Oh, that looks quite nice. Because that colour, this is not really coding now, this is more design thoughts. Because that white has a visual relationship with the egg object, it looks kind of more natural than the black did for some reason, and it's kind of thicker because the eggs were pretty thick anyway. Now we've got eggs getting on much too well down here, so I think the collision detection is an issue, and maybe something for you to have a look at if you want to. It's just become very, very slow. I don't know if that's the number. What's probably now happening? Oh yes, if they are colliding in this way, then they are generating new and new lines. So if I do a fourth video, I might look at that, or if anyone requests it, I'll do that. Right, let's just final flourish. Although this is going to put the cat among the pigeons. Seme la zizanie. Let's have a look. We're going to make, what's 7 times 3? I think it's 21, so we're going to triple it. Let's have a look. There we go, lots of eggs and some kind of interesting patterns. So what we need to do is make these eggs a lot smaller and sort out a couple of the bugs, because these bugs are slowing down the performance very, very quickly. And then we might have, I quite like the look of this. It looks kind of cool. It might be nice to have some of the eggs disappearing now and then. When they get, maybe if they get 3 connections, then they could disappear or burst, or you could create a new egg by clicking, which is very easy to do. Again, if if anyone watches this and you would like to know how to do that, request it in the comments and I'll definitely do it. Otherwise, this might be the last one. Right, thank you very much. My dream has come true. It's worked-ish. It's worked badly, full of bugs, but I love these eggs. I love them as my children. Thank you very much. Enjoy.